It's time to talk LSU baseball with Mike Scarborough and Kendall Rogers of D1Baseball. This is Batter Up.
All right, Mike Scarborough here with Kendall Rogers of D1Baseball. And, we were sitting here last week talking about if LSU didn't win 2 out of 3, and I saw your tweet on Saturday. I think it was you and Etheridge, and saying if LSU doesn't get it done this weekend, it's over. And I think they knew that going into it. They did get 2 out of 3. It wasn't easy. Win against Nichols in impressive fashion, and now there's a lot more people with some pep in their step. And talking about sweep against Auburn, is it necessary to have a sweep to have any semblance, or can you get away with 2 out of 3, Kendall?
Well, here's the interesting thing is, even though last weekend I thought was the most important series of the year for obvious reasons, we're in another series this weekend where it's like do or die. Because the reason why I say that is because if you look at LSU right now, let's just say they lose 2 out of 3 in that series against Auburn. Okay, I don't think they will, but let's say they do. You have to win A&M, Bama, Ole Miss series just to get to 12 wins going into Hoover. And so you probably have to win a game or two there just to get in at least a game. So I just think if you're LSU, you don't want to leave things to chance. If you win that series this weekend, it at least gives you an opportunity the last 3 weeks where you don't have to win every single series to get to 13 win. And that's where you want to be. You do not want to go in those final 3 weeks and where it's like if you lose one of those series, you're done. I would not want to be in that position. So it's a big weekend, but I'll say this. I think LSU matches up well with Auburn. I think if you look over the weekend, Nate Ackenhausen, I thought, threw better. Griffin Herring was awesome. I think it was 8 strikeouts and 5 shutout innings. Whereas when you look at Auburn, they lost, Ike Irish to an ankle injury. He will not be available this weekend for Auburn. That's massive. I mean, if you look at his power production for Auburn this year, it's been phenomenal. So them not having him going into Baton Rouge this weekend, just as they say a little bit for the Tigers.
Yeah, I think you just cut out there a little bit. Let me ask you, if you had to call your shot right now, is LSU a regional team when you look at the what's left?
I think they're a regional quality team. And where did I cut out, by the way?
About last 10 seconds of what you were saying, then it came back.
Oh, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. I think going back to Auburn real quick, I think not having Ike Irish is huge. I like the way LSU matches up this weekend. I do think when you look at this team, so let's look ahead. I think they win the series this weekend. I think they lose the series to A&M at home. I think they win the Ole Miss series, and I'm actually going to say they win the Alabama series. So I think they can find a way to get there. It's not going to be easy. Trust me, it's not going to be easy. But I think they can find a way to get there. I think they match up okay with Alabama. I think Alabama is one of those teams that they can be really hot and cold on the mound. They're really offensive, don't get me wrong, but they're really hot and cold on the mound. And obviously, I think, LSU, again, I think this is a team that can maybe play better with its back against the wall a little bit. But again, we go back to this weekend. If things don't pan out this weekend, I mean, it's pretty much all over I guess we could sit here and say, unless they sweep A&M or something. But, I don't know how we would expect them to lose a series to Auburn, but then turn around and sweep A&M.
Exactly. Yeah. I tell you what. Of course, we're brought to you each week by attorney Kenneth P. Haines, and so we're sitting here and thinking that a couple of weeks ago that it was pretty much over. And the way they were playing, even with people, fans, and of course, Coach Jay Johnson doing the math. Most people were very skeptical that this team would be get to postseason. Yeah. Now there's a little bit of a lifeline. Kenny will submit a few questions for you each week. And so I guess he's getting greedy. He goes, what does LSU have to do in the next 2 weeks if it wants to be ranked again by D1?
Kenny, let's just get to the postseason, brother. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. So I think Kenny's aiming a little high there, but I like the expectations. I just to kind of give you a good answer here.
What is LSU's RPI, like 38, 39 the last I looked?
Yeah,
I don't know if
I'll
that's
look
a
it up
part of your
for you. But
factors.
while I'm looking that up, I will be very interested just to see how they play these last few weeks. It's not very often, right, that they're 36, by the way. But it's not very
Okay.
often, right, that we look at an LSU program that's historically such a juggernaut, really kind of play with its season on the line. So, like, if you're Jay Johnson, like, you hate being in this position, but, like, in a way, it's kind of, I mean, I say it's neat. It's not very neat for you guys as fans, but, like, it's kind of cool, kind of interesting to me. I guess interesting would be the right word, that, like, a program like LSU, like, like, at this stage of in the game and the season, like, you're getting the best that these guys have to offer, because if you don't, the season's over. And so I think it's actually kind of interesting as we look ahead to the next, final 4 weekends.
Now, that's the LSU fan base, but do you think the rest of the college baseball world is enjoying LSU's troubles?
You know what's really funny, and I know you're going to think I'm lying. I don't think people really have. I think people have enjoyed Florida's struggles. I can tell you from my Twitter feed that, like, people are not sad for Florida, but I think when you look at LSU as a whole, I think people know it's kind of like in good and bad here, right? If you're a Texas fan, you're an A&M fan, or Arkansas fan, and LSU struggling, okay, that means two things. Okay, you may be laughing at LSU short term, but guess what that means? That means Jay is going to be ready to go scorched earth in the transfer portal and in the offseason. I can tell you right now, if this team does not make the postseason, and frankly, it's going to happen whether or not they make the postseason, but going in the offseason, that dude is going to be working like an
Oh,
animal to get this thing back on track. And I don't think anybody at these other schools likes to see that.
yeah. And that's what where my mindset with this LSU
Yeah.
baseball team has been for the last 3 or 4 weeks. I think I asked you a couple of weeks ago, if you gave Jay the option, of course, this is, kind of a Sophie's choice and no one a competitor he is. But if he could get to work sooner on getting the program back or going to a regional or barely getting a tournament play and being an early exit, what might he prefer? I don't know that it matters either way. Like you said, I think he's going to be just a Tasmanian devil.
Well, yeah,
Getting
what's really
get,
crazy about this team, and I think it's like a broken record at this point because I've said it so much. But I would prefer getting in the postseason because you never know what's going to happen. It's
right.
not like, I mean, when you look at LSU's talent across the board, is it last year's team? No, but is there enough talent there that if a couple of arms get hot, that they can win a regional? Absolutely, 100%. So
I'm gonna tell you right
I
now,
would prefer to get there.
Jay thinks they get in the tournament. He thinks they can win a regional.
Absolutely, 100% agree. I
In
don't think they
fact,
can win the national
I think
championship, but I think they can win a regional.
he's extremely confident. Of course, look, we know what Ole Miss did. They didn't even belong in the tournament, and they end up winning. Not saying that
You never
that's
know.
LSU, that can happen, but um, yeah. So, I got a question for you. That big series with A&M coming to town next weekend. You coming in?
No, I gotta see the Tigers heat up, bro. Um,
Okay. Oh,
it
so
will be it.
it's the fact that LSU's not that good.
Well, I wasn't
If it
gonna
was a
say that
typical
out loud.
a typical LSU team, you'd be here.
You're correct. It's just a little different vibe. I mean, that's gonna be interesting. I mean, if LSU takes the Auburn series this weekend, man, that'll be a fun series. You've got the portal battles between those two coaching staffs. Obviously, you have Nate Yeski moved over to LSU. You've got A&M's pitching coach doing a really nice job. Obviously the natural. Whatever fake name they have for the rivalry name, you have that going for you too. So that could set the stage for a fun weekend, and you never know, maybe a potential upset weekend for LSU.
By the way, Missouri, as anemic as they looked offensively, how did they sweep Florida?
It's a great question. I if somebody told me to explain how the Florida season's gone in 100 words, I would not even know where to begin. I can't figure Florida out. I mean, they look like gangbusters against a good Stetson team in midweek, which they can't win a midweek to save their ass, but they play really well this week in the midweek. And then on the weekend, the last couple of weeks, they've looked horrible. So I can't figure them out. I mean, I would say this. I don't think they're very deep offensively. They only have a few guys that can really hurt you. offensively. And when you have that combined with a really average pitching staff, I mean, that's a pretty bad recipe, at least in this league in its current state.
If the regular season ended today, I wonder if your answer is the same as when I kind of asked a similar question 3 or 4 weeks ago. Maybe your top 3 or 4 or 5, top 5 most disappointing teams in college baseball if the season ended today.
Yeah, I mean, I would be lying to you if I didn't throw LSU into that mix. I mean, I think if you look,
Right.
I'm just trying to think. I'd have to go back and look at my top 25 at this stage of the season. It's been so damn long. Texas. I mean, they were a preseason top 10 team. They've got an RPI in the 70s right now, so they would certainly be a disappointment. Wake Forest a few weeks ago was a disappointment. They've started to figure some things out. The biggest one the two biggest ones by far, Mike, would be Iowa and UCLA. Iowa's RPIs in the triple digits. That's a team that LSU saw last year. Brody Breck against Paul Skeens. We thought Breck would take the big step forward. We thought their pitching staff would be loaded. They've struggled on the mound this year. And then UCLA, John Savage is probably not Jay Johnson's best friend right now because without Thatcher Hurd and without Gage Jump, UCLA, it's hard to believe, Mike, but they are dead last in the Pac-12 right now. I mean, I don't know how UCLA can even get dead last in the Pac-12, but they're dead last right now. And they were preseason 22.
All right, we're brought to you every week by attorney Kenneth P. Haines. Let's hear from Kenny.
Kenny Haines is a proud 1989 graduate of LSU Law School with a passion for justice. Kenny stands out as the only lawyer in the state, board certified in both appellate practice and family law. Drawing from 34 years of trial experience, Kenny has navigated the most complex aspects of real people's lives. If you need help in Northwest Louisiana with a family issue, legal issue, or a highly skilled trial attorney, call Kenny 318-222-2100. And speaking of winning, Kenny would like to recognize our 2023 national champions and congratulate coaches Kim Mulkey and Jay Johnson. Go Tigers!
Kenny, Kendall, I want to ask you this. I'm looking at LSU's schedule. What is the rhyme or reason for how many Thursday, Friday, Saturday series they give SEC schools? Does that flip-flop every year? Because LSU seemed to luck up this year with not the same number they had last year.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's there's some luck involved, but a lot of it's like who you have, like who are the headliner teams. I will say this: I don't know who in the world had Missouri against Tennessee starting on the Thursday night. That's a strange Thursday night game to have, but yeah, I think it's just a mix of like how many headliners you have versus, just not they draw straws, but like where you are in the rotation.
Well, what are the big games that you're really focusing on this weekend? I know, in fact, I saw you guys go live earlier this afternoon, and again, I keep telling people go check out D1Baseball's YouTube channel. They kick out a lot of great content, and I think y'all deserve 3 or 4 times the current subscribe rate. Guys, go hit the subscribe button and notification bell on that channel.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Florida State and Duke this weekend. Florida State still down 2 weekend starters, but I tell you what, to be down 2 weekend starters, they gave Wake all they could handle last weekend. Now they play a really good Duke team on the road, so that's a headliner. I think if you look at the Big 12, I mentioned Texas earlier, and they're 70-ish RPI. They're at Oklahoma this weekend. Oklahoma, had a little bit of a hiccup there a few weeks ago against Lamar at home, but they are red hot. They're on track to host right now. And then, you look out west, it'll be just interesting to see how that Pac-12 race shapes up. Right now, you've got Arizona leading the pack by a couple of games over Oregon State, who I think is a better team, but they're 2 games behind Arizona in the standings. How do things kind of, situate themselves out there? So a lot at stake, man, as you look ahead of these, final 4 weeks. Obviously, big weekend ahead for LSU, but I think as you look at the SEC, outside of maybe Kentucky, Tennessee, A&M, and Arkansas, there is still a ton of at stake for a lot of these teams.
Is there going to be some unique some schools that either for the first time or so that you guys are already seeing these guys are going to get to host. Have y'all started tracking that yet, or get an idea
How
of
about
who's
this?
really?
I mean, Indiana State is on track to host for back-to-back seasons. That is one of the more incredible jobs I've seen. I mean, Indiana State historically, with Mitch Haines as their head coach, they've been good, but for the Sycamores to be in position to host back-to-back years, frankly, one of the best stories in college baseball in the last 10 or 15 years, in my opinion.
And what kind of facility do they have?
It's very average at best. It maybe holds like 3,000. You could just go Google it. It's not. It's definitely not great. I wouldn't even call it. I would, if I was going to comp it, I would say it's better than McNeese, but way worse than Lafayette.
Well, if LSU is to somehow make their way and get into one, I'm wondering where they're going to get sent, and so that's going to be interesting.
I would not be if I was LSU fan. I would not be disappointed to be sent to Terre Haute.
There you go. Anything else you want to add on the way out? And also, please tell them how to subscribe to D1Baseball, the promo code and all that.
Yeah, man, D1Baseball.com/subscribe. You can use 24 season to get 24% off any subscription package right now. Obviously, we'll have a lot on LSU this weekend against Auburn. And of course, as we look ahead, since we mentioned it earlier, LSU will be very active in the transfer portal, and we will be all over that as well. So we'll have anything for you, no matter if they win or lose.
By the way, and now you bring that up, and we're certainly following transfer portal right now in LSU football.
Oh, yeah.
And a need for defensive tackles and some of the dollar amounts that are rumored out there and how tight how difficult that seems to be. And of course, women's basketball getting 3 yesterday and men's basketball. And that's how crazy is the transfer portal? Are you hearing some outrageous things about transfer portal for baseball? Do you think that that's starting to get in a realm that you never imagined?
Oh, that's already there. I mean, there were a couple of kids in last year's cycle that I was shocked at the number I heard they were getting. So it's already there. It's just not as widespread, and it's not as as many in terms of frequency. But in terms of the superstar players, yeah, we're gonna get there to numbers that you would have thought would have been mentioned with a college baseball player.
Yeah, I can see it. I sit here now, and it's just a year later. I wonder what a guy like Paul Skeens could fetch now. And I think the dollar amounts are exponentially escalating in a hurry from one year to the next, and I think you're going to see that. But then you wonder, when's the bottom going to fall out? Is it a deal where get it while you can?
Yeah, that's what I've always kind of told people, and we could turn this into an hour-long podcast about it in general. But I've told people that, oh, I mean, I'm done watching college sports, which, by the way, the person who says that has never done watching college sports. But, I'll have people tell me I'm done watching college sports. These people, are greedy. And I always say, hey, listen, man, like anything, whether it's, LSU football, recruiting, whatever, there will be a market correction at some point. And I think that market correction is coming sooner than you think.
I can tell you right now, just from a football recruiting perspective, I think that the hardcore football recruiting guy that's covered it religiously for 10, 20, 30 years, I think those guys have fallen off a bit. I think they're probably watching the transfer portal more now, and they're a little bit more skeptical. They maybe not follow recruiting as religiously. They're waiting until signing day. That's where I think the difference is. There's a big drop off, and I agree with you. The guy who says I'm done with college sports.
I mean, and I would argue this too, man. This applies to baseball and football. But if I'm Jay Johnson or I'm Brian Kelly, and I can go out and get a bona fide stud, mid-major or even a Power 5 defensive tackle or receiver, dude, give me that guy over a high school kid any day of the week. A lot less drama, and it's proven results.
Absolutely. All right, Kendall, man. Good stuff as always.
You got it, brother. Be good, man. Have a safe weekend.
Later. Bye.
Yeah.